Thank you for a lovely intro. It's awesome to be here. I love kind of getting a chance to talk to the future innovators and all the people that won't make the same shitty mistakes that we made, which is really exciting. Because we've made some shitty mistakes. But I guess, it's always good to have a chance to tell our story. When I think about story and startups and starting a business, it very much feels like a story. Like, people use that term a lot, but since day one to today, we've often talked in the office and actually talked with our team members about making a sitcom called Coassemble, because you would really, you'd engage. It's funny stuff, and it's fun, it's enjoyable, it's challenging, it's stressful. Me and Jude, we actually didn't have any grey prior to starting this company. But no, in all seriousness, it's a lot of fun, and you're building something. And so I think today I'd love to tell you about what we built together and where it's at today and where it's going, and happy to answer questions as we go along. Firstly, I'm an old school teacher, so PE teacher, try not to stand in front of you. Old PE teacher, and I'm not going to ask you to raise hands because we're not students, but here who's done a really crappy online e-learning course, as in, like, you've had to sit there and click and click and click, and you're not really enjoying the process, but you have to do it, the information's important, someone sent it to you in an email. Basically, me and Jude's vision is to take away that experience. So we've experienced poor online training, we've experienced poor education delivered online, pretending to be education, pretending to be engaging, pretending to be fun, but never actually delivering. And we kind of go about this thinking about two sets of users. Number one, the person who's creating the content, the person who is actually, it's their job to summarize and pull knowledge together and then distribute that to someone else. And that could be an educator, could be a business owner, could be a HR member inside running a team. And then, most importantly, they're important, and we do love those guys, and we spend a lot of time on them. The person we really value and talk a lot about at Coassemble is what we call the end learner, the person who's actually going to go through that course. And I'll give you a little heads up on why that is. If someone loves the experience and learns something from it and takes that message into a business, we see business improvement. It's the same at school. If you are not engaged with the content, if you're all falling asleep today and my story is kind of shit boring, you're all going to kind of say, hey, well, I didn't get much out of that and I didn't engage, and you're all going to be on your phones, and that's totally okay. Because I did not engage you. I did not get that information across in a valid way. So if you think about learner, if we don't tap into the learner experience, the person who's actually going to do this course, then our product probably stands in a pretty bad place. So we have a focus, what we call learner focus. We ensure that that experience on the end is top notch. And what that actually does is feed back to the creation process. So if you're not aware of this industry, we are essentially, the way we would describe ourselves, we're world class. We coined that ourselves, so just, we didn't win an award that says we're world class, but the coolest thing about starting our own business is you kind of get to control the marketing narrative. Like, if you've ever driven up the coast, and there'll be that cafe, it's like, best pie in the whole North Coast. And it's like, who decided that? They did, and that's okay, because sometimes you just got to be really passionate about, hey, yeah, we're world class, that's us. An authoring tool, so this is content creation. The problem we're trying to solve is someone is generally trying to take a document, PowerPoint, PDF, a really kind of shitty learning experience. They were not designed for learning, and they're trying to take that and put it into something digital. Before COVID, it was because they really wanted to improve learning. They were passionate about it. Now it's a necessity. No one is necessarily bringing and flying all team members to the office and rolling out training. It's become very blended now, and digital plays a big role in that. So we're a content creation tool, authoring tool. We help you create content. And if you've heard of an LMS, it's a learning management system. The idea is we help you disseminate that training or that piece of async content out to an audience, whether that be small, large, or diverse. And we try and give you what we call traceability. We want to know that if I send it to Jude, he looks at it, but that kind of goes somewhere. We want to know that he looked at it. What did he engage with? Did he understand it? And we want to give that back to the person who first created that content. So to summarize, We're an authoring tool built into a light LMS, and the idea is we want to revolutionize very much how the learner experiences digital learning content in an audience space. So, we also won some awards, but I just didn't talk about that. This is us. I call us a baby unicorn. Now, you may have heard the term, unicorn, big, last massive startup worth $1 billion. That's not us. But we are trying, essentially, to grow a business, okay? And there's always money involved. There's always metrics involved. We are venture capital backed. We have investors. And actually, me and Jude have $0 in this company. A very rare situation traditionally for most founders. We have raised every single piece of capital that has raised the business that we are today. So metrics and numbers, they really do matter to us. They're important. But there's a metric up here that we're really most proud of. It's this total amount of learners that have actually gone through content and loved it and has changed their job, changed their life, changed whatever they're doing. And so for us, that's a really passionate component about how we go about things. We think about, potentially, yes, we've got 1,000 customers, that's exciting. A lot of those customers come from North America and the world. We've got this number. We are very excited about the fact that we've almost got 100,000 people learning in our platform every single month, and we really focus in on that. And my heart, my passion, these guys. The 18 absolute legends that bring it to life every single day, design it, the genius behind the actual thing. Like, I get to talk about it, but this guy actually creates it and designs it. So summarizing, we're at about 4.2 million in revenue today. I remember when we were at 7,000 per month, and I remember thinking, doing the maths on my calculator, going, okay, our plans sell for $99 a month. That's another 900 customers that I'm gonna have to go get. And it felt extremely daunting. It felt extremely daunting to go figure out how do we do that. But it's through these guys. Innovation comes from getting people in who are passionate about what you are doing and then letting them run free. And I've always been a big believer that if we cultivate a team experience and they can have some ownership in that experience, we can do amazing things. For us, this is pretty amazing. We've raised $6 million in capital. We have 1,000 customers, roughly 200 in Australia, and the rest in the global customers at this point in time. Our secret sauce, a big part of what we're doing is this industry was kind of stuck, and I'll use the example of, if you think about website design, it used to cost you about $35K to go to an agency and design a website when I first started teaching. This is, I'm old, but not that old, but back in the early 2000s, this was a skill set you had to pay for and you had to get. As I start teaching, Kevin Rudd gives out every single student, right, a laptop. One of the stupidest things that's ever happened. I mean, it created a lot of innovation, but not a single teacher had any idea what the hell to do with them. And all of a sudden we had 30 kids in a classroom, and I was teaching at Mount Drew at the time, and I had 30 students who had never even seen a laptop, let alone even used one, and I was told to educate on the technology, which I thought was pretty funny. What ends up happening is, in that experience, if you don't engage the end learner, they just fall away. So for us, 90% of our users are first-time creators. The e-learning industry used to be like websites. You had to go pay someone a lot of money to create a really cool course. And then you'd send it out once, and then it was kind of out of date. Today's world moves way faster. We have team leaders, we have marketing managers, we have engineering team leaders creating courses. Knowledge has become transferable. It's quick, it's speedy. The people in the businesses that we serve are the ones that have the knowledge. They're the ones that you've got to tap into. HR is looking at compliance and a whole bunch of different reasons for training, but what we're trying to tap into are all the people that actually have knowledge but have been locked out of the process of sharing it digitally in a format that really is quite powerful, right? Now, if you think about this, that's a blue ocean opportunity. If we're going after the HR, we're the best learning tool for the one person in a business that designs courses, it's a very small market. For us, again, we love coining terms. We go after the Fortune 500,000. Which is not the Fortune 500, because the Fortune 500 are those enterprise companies that are very mature in their learning space, in their HR space. We decided that our tool was way too colorful, way too fun, and way too engaging to spend there. We wanted to go after the people that had yet to discover the power of true digital learning. How do we tap into that? So we go after, and at this point in time, our statistics show us that almost 90% of our users, it's the first time they're going to use our software. And this is where I throw over to this genius, because software design, we're not a complex software, but the amount of time and energy and money that's gone into great UX and great experience is extreme. And the reason is because one thing we've learned, you have to tailor to your users. If we have clunky design, if you're a first-time user and you can't figure out how to use this technology in the literally 5 minutes, maybe you've got time to try it, we've lost you. You're gone. We'll never see you again. Now, someone in a HR department who's been sourced and said, hey, go buy a learning tool. You've got 6 months to evaluate all the tools out in the market and go and figure that out. That's a very different buyer. They're going to have time. They're going to evaluate it. They're going to go through that entire process. So for us, our secret sauce. Now, I don't know how to play this with the clicker.
Press it.
Oh, awesome. Can you press it? I always figure it's better to show than tell. This is just a little quick, you can expand it full screen. The idea behind our platform is, is to create great screens of content that are fully engaging and self-serving. The idea is don't sit there and click through it. The idea is to actually click, to engage in the content that interests you rather than just, play, next. As we've kind of come down, we've actually paired our platform further and further back to be able to make it so simple for someone to be able to utilize. We've incorporated AI of recent, everyone has. But even before that, our idea was how do we add simple screens that we know are true and tested in terms of learning capability into a platform that anyone can log in and create a course within minutes. And we're stuck to that vision since day one. And here you can see, for example, what we're trying to do is just now build an automatic quiz off the back of a course. So if you can imagine, one of the hardest things, if you're not educationally trained, is to come up with questions that actually assess someone's knowledge. It's actually really difficult, right? You might know the content, but you've never come up with questions, right? Our users tell us that that's a big problem. That's a hard one for them to solve. So we utilize AI to be able to go, okay, let's use the content you've created, the content you put into this course, let's automatically create it for you. Take that job away for you. So for us, where it comes back to, our secret sauce has always been about thinking about the end user. You'll hear this a lot in every single startup story. We're no different. You have to focus in on that end user. For us, it's been a passion. We want our technology to be loved. We have emojis and all sorts of things to gather feedback and ensure that people are enjoying the process. It's a big part of how we've, had some success. I don't know if it'll flip now that we're moving, but.
Not to click the slide. Just click it. You got it? You want me to just click that manually on the next one?
Yeah, I think.
No, you don't.
Did I miss one? No.
Is that the right button? That's it, yeah.
To start off on this one, our story comes about as saying, you know what?
I can't see the screen.
And so now for Female Founders Program, I'm happy to talk to you about that one. I only brought him along to just, one. He's the tech guy. Like,
Yeah, just go.
can you imagine 7 years of this? Seven years? So where we play is really important. The e-learning TAM, if you've ever heard of total addressable market, right? If you're ever going to pitch to an investor, that's one term you're going to have down pat. Total addressable market for e-learning is very, very large, right? Very large. One of the biggest in the market, right? It's multi-billion dollars opportunity. And if you walk into an investor room and say, yeah, it's a big opportunity, and they go, yeah, but how are you going to go get a part of it, or where are you going to go? We swim in a very competitive landscape. Almost 900 platforms say they are the same as us. That's pretty noisy, right? When you're going out to market and going, hey, all these guys, how do we actually say that we're different? How are we going to push through? And when we're in the early stages and we're trying to figure out that, we change market position quite a lot, right? We don't discover the Fortune 500,000 on day one. My first customer that I sold to, Jude's built the technology, we're in beta, and I signed Starbucks, an enterprise customer, right? And I signed them for $99. But the idea was that they were a large business, and we didn't figure out that I didn't sign Starbucks. I signed Joe from the one team in Starbucks, who was actually our 90% first time creator, if that makes sense. But we didn't figure that out at the start. So we walked back in the office like, Starbucks, you know, we're on our way, let's go, we've got the best customer in the world. And then the investor says, how much are they paying? I said, $99 a month. $99 a month. Well, you're gonna have to get a lot of those, Ryan. So when you have to change market and figure out the positioning, it's really important to understand the problem you're trying to solve. Right? A lot of these guys are solving a problem that's very mature, and they're trying to solve an L&D problem, a learning and design HR problem. We compare ourselves to Wix, if you've ever heard of them, a website creation tool that was early innovation in the space to say, hey, anyone can create a website. Not just the agencies, not just a person who's formally trained, anyone. We compare ourselves to Canva, we just don't have the valuation. But at the same time, we believe we're in a similar space. We're democratizing a space that says, hey, this is really hard to do, it's expensive, it takes huge amounts of time. How about we give you a tool to help out? That's how we found our little area of the pool, essentially. You know, it was right up in the deep end, very hard to swim kind of area of the pool. It is extremely hard to go after big market. You know, part of our story, why we're maybe not as successful as we'd like to be, is because we didn't hone in on one of those really profitable sectors like the enterprise. All right, one of our challenges is we get someone that deems our tool on first day to be worth nothing until we prove some value. Right? And as we prove that value, they're growing in the understanding that this tool can add value to their business, and all of a sudden they start to want to pay us more. That journey takes time. Right? So for us, it's a long mission, it's a long vision, but we're not moving away from it. For us, we're product-led. We have no sales team, we have no marketing team, and throughout our process, we've tried sales. We've tried to sell to this audience, but what we've realized is it comes back to, again, identifying who is the person we want to use our tool. They don't want to talk to sales. You know, if you think about the types of technology you want to try, the last thing you're expecting is a phone call. You kind of probably want to just log on, test it, try it out, see if it does what you're looking to do. You've got 10 minutes in your day before you got another meeting. For us, that's really important, and we didn't figure it out for like 3.5 years. So we were banging our heads against a wall, trying to sell, getting some results, but at the same time, when we figured out that our actual product does the talking for us. When someone creates their own first course, man, are they sticky after that. Now, if we can't get them to create, sure, we lose them. But if they create it themselves and they transform something that was really shitty experience for their end staff or their learners and take that and make it something, and then all of a sudden start getting feedback going, man, that was fun, love that new course, what'd you build that in? We have them. It's a sticky moment, and our retention rate says so. We're at almost 99% retention rate. This is a platform that once you get into it, people love. So for us, it's a freemium market. We basically let you play with the tool. You can actually go to coassemble.com straight after this and start building your own course. You don't even have to create an account. We let you actually play with the software without even giving us your email. It's risky because we've got hundreds of thousands of people doing that every single day. It's lots of server resources. But at the same time, we know that the market is huge and we want to basically pull in the best. So we focus on it. How do we make money? How do we make sure that we're a business? Because, you know, it's all well and good to be free. But in this world, you know, your investors and the people who put money into your company, they do love to see a return at some point in time. They do come knocking on the door. We have paid products, commercialized products that we know out the back of this funnel, once you've created your course, there's a strong chance you'll need to start tracking it. You might need an LMS. There's a strong chance that you might start selling that content and making money off it. That's our publisher plan. There's a strong chance that you may start to put this in your own platform. So we know that once you come through this pipeline and you come out the other side, we can also create courses for you. These are our monetized products. It's a big funnel, it's an early entry funnel, but we end up with the people out the other side. Last message here is, in 2017, me and Jude started this company formally. Now, Jude's been here for about 25 years making the software. Just a joke, sorry. Jude's the genius. He makes everything. I'm the commercial guy. You can probably tell that already. It's a great partnership. I do not go over to him and say, hey, I don't like that color. Let's design it slightly different. We talk about both areas, but it's really important that we've got both very different strengths. All right? It's not my strength to build amazing technology. That's what he does. But I do understand market, and I do understand learning, and we've gone out and done that. Every investor told us in 2017, we were in Newcastle, we have about $7,000 of MRR, we're doing okay, we're not even making money, we're having fun, to be honest. But every single investor tells us, you have to make it in Australia first. You just have to go. Australia is the market, you have to nail it. And look, you're probably going to hear this, and I'm not going to say it's wrong, but we kind of said, fuck it, we're going overseas. We found that our market didn't exist here. It's important to go back to your first story, which is know your user. Our users in Australia were still stuck in a HR mentality, still buying big software to solve their problems. Over in the US, that had changed. SaaS had become a thing. Small subscriptions had become a thing, and we dived in. And we said, you know what? No. I first signed the University of Kansas, Missouri, one of our large customers, still with us today, trained thousands of students essentially in literacy. That's it, that's all they use it for. They train them in literacy before they go to university. We've used our tool since 2017. I signed them on an online chat at the Junction Coles. Because we went global from day one. We opened up the chat on our website and said, hey, talk to us. I was buying a hot chicken. My wife had the shits with me because I was trying to type, and all I was meant to get was a chicken, literally. And she's like, come on, let's go, we've got to hurry. And I'm there going, you don't understand, I'm signing a university, right? And we're in Coles, the Junction. True story. What it resonates here is open up your market. If your market exists elsewhere, today is the day. You can go there. You can go there immediately and start to understand it. Now, I will say, when you go to North America, there's a couple of things you have to understand. First conference me and Jude go to, we lost our bags, number one, all the gear, right? We also made shirts. We bought all medium shirts. It turns out the US is like double XL. So we're handing out these shirts. Like, yeah, we'll give that to the kids. Thanks. And we went with a product that was $29 per month to a conference where the average price of the L&D tools were around about $60,000 a year. And everyone went, yeah, Aussies, yeah, whatever. It worked. From there, you'll see on the next slide, this one, continual growth from single January 2017, we're at 7.4. And the sentence there is hoped to be a joke, but how nice and clean does that look? Oh, it's just all up and to the right, it's growth. Yeah, we're experts in this shit. No. If I was to show you the actual non-straightened version of this, it goes like this. We've lost team members. We've fucked up deals. We have literally just done a lot of stuff that is not great. But we've also consistently tried to ensure that the learners were happy in a mass market. And when you do that and you focus on your own learner, this graph, and it looks really nice now, puts us at almost, $4 million. And over in 2017, we're in the Bond Street up near the grain store thinking, how do we ever get to a size of business where we're impacting lots of learners? It's by continually trying to move. I could tell you some funny ass stories. We have no time because I'm a talker and I've already taken up heaps of time. But man, see this? This is me in America, living and breathing for almost a year, literally 3 months on, 1 week back, 3 months on, 1 week back. Almost lost the wife, right? There's a lot of stories here and there that just, this little slow graph, this is actually after we raised our Series A. We raised money, and we don't know what to do with it. We're like, we were doing really well before. How do we actually pick up the speed here? And then you can see we start to figure it out. There is no one story of success in a startup. In our experience, it's been absolutely fail again, fail again, fail again, fall over, fail again. But at the same time, if you look on those failures as how they get you to the next step, potentially you can get a graph like this. We're pretty proud of this graph, right? We feel like small, Newcastle company, literally coming with the only money that we can get into this business is through raising capital. To raise capital, investors have to believe you have market opportunity, you have product excellence, okay? And you can go and execute on your plan, right? If that's not the case, it literally will not give you millions of dollars. It's just that simple. So for us, every step of the way, I come back to the start, story. Investment, business, we run our company like a story. We tell our team everything. We're transparent. We have a Slack that basically is me, you know, often swearing and doing all sorts of crazy stuff, but at the same time, we have fun. We try and ensure that everyone is on the journey. Because if they are not, those 18 legends, they don't help us get to where we are today. And it's a really important part of how we've done it. I think, you know, I skipped a slide, sorry, I just want to go back. The last thing is, for us, everyone talks about metrics. They are important. They drive decision making. They drive what you do. And I want to tell you a story, a real story that happened to us about 15 months ago. We're on this beautiful journey. We're hiring team members. We've raised capital. We've got international growth. We're in the AFR. There's this picture of us going, hey, we're the great startup in the AFR. It's all going well. I go to the US for a month in April and we have our largest ever revenue month. It's our most proud moment. It's the biggest month. It's literally 20K in that month alone of net new revenue growth. Customers are flying in. We're having a great time. And I get back and I'm turning 40, right? And my main investor walks in and he says, Ryan, there's a bottle of whiskey for you. There you go. The market's gone to shit. And you're not going to raise any more capital from here, and you're going to have to cut half your team. This is a reality. When you are investor-led, the market sometimes can be 100% in control of where you are heading. You could be cruising along, having a great time, and then you have to deal with something that's catastrophic. Right? So these stories of this like nice linear growth, they match to the opportunity that you're trying to drive towards, right? And I said, you know what? We think our product is worth it. We want to keep our product innovation. We want to keep moving. Let's fight this. Now, we didn't win every single battle with our investors and board, but we definitely tried our best to keep the vision moving and stay true to what we believe that we are very passionate about. And metrics matter because this gross margin is the improvement since 2021 to 2023. If you understand gross margin, that is us really ripping back on expenses. You know, we were literally flying first class. No, we weren't flying. But it's about ripping back on expenses and looking at your product and saying, how can it actually be the most efficient as possible? 2 years ago, not a single investor wanted to talk to me about efficiency. It was growth, growth, growth. Ryan, can we talk about growth? It has changed drastically in the last 15 months. Now, a lot of you guys are going to be bootstrapped and a whole bunch of different, you know, and even if you've got ideas, you might not be investor-led, but this is our story. Investors are a big part of why we can deliver thousands of courses to thousands of learners every single day. So wrapping up, I think for us, it is hard. It's really hard. Like, it's super fun at the same time, right? So for us, it's really important that you value your team, you put the time and energy into building a culture that actually enjoys what they're doing. We have lost people. We consistently lose people because, well, maybe we just don't pay enough, who knows. But there's every single exit interview, all right? That person comes to us and says, you know what, this has been the best experience, I've loved it, I am ready to move on. I'm ready to go and get that next job. I'm ready to go get a head position, but I wasn't a head before. We absolutely love that, right? We love that we're actually cultivating experiences where people can actually leave our company and potentially go on and do something cool. This is Jude. He's the genius behind the product. I'm Ryan. Happy to answer any questions. That's our story. Hope you enjoyed it.
Can we bring our seats a little bit to the center?
Yeah.
I hope everyone's feeling as revved up as I am this morning about this story, because that was insane. I think if there's one word that can capture the feeling of that, is passion.
Gotta have passion.
So we've taken a number of questions from everyone at registration. Thank you so much to those who submitted a question. I'm going to jump the queue actually, and ask a question.
Mate, they're all waiting.
I've got to dig into something.
Yeah.
You had a really, really great slide up there about your sales line and about the stories and the bumps that can go along with that.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you spoke to an investor and they said, you got to grow in Australia. What was the knowledge that you both had that allowed you to say to that investor or to anyone else who had that advice that you need to be in Australia, that no, you're wrong, we actually can go to the US or any other international market and we're going to do this? What is it within you that lets you know that you know better than someone else who's probably got a lot more experience?
A lot more experience. And it wasn't just one investor. There's probably about 10 of them. No, it's talk to your customers. And so since day one in 2017, we instituted Intercom. If you haven't heard of it, it's a little live chat bubble that you can put on your website. And the idea behind that was there's no way we can grow a product and actually cater to our customer if we're not listening to them. Now, you can do that via email, you can do that by... What we found was so powerful was that we could open up the chat. Now, when we did this, no one was chatting to us from Australia. But we were getting plenty of conversations from the rest of the world because, again, those customers were looking for our tool. And so when we went to our investor and we said, hey, we want to jump on a plane and go to Vegas, and that's where our first conference was, and lots of stories about that one. But we knew at that point in time that when we went to the US, we were tapping into the conversation rather than necessarily a conversation here that wasn't yet ready. Now, interestingly, today, I reckon if we turned on that same chat functionality, and we've lost it recently, but if we turn it back on, Australians would be chatting to us. The market has shifted, but when we first started in 2017, Australians weren't ready for small tools in this space. But they are now, and it's changed. But the US and a whole bunch of other countries were. So we went with our Intercom data and said, hey, we're starting conversations, and it doesn't help, it doesn't hurt to have signed a university on a pretty significant deal from live chat here in Australia. So I think we were able to build what I would call traction. And if you're ever going to go to an investor, they're going to throw you out of the room immediately if you don't have the word starting with traction, traction, because it's just critical. So I think it's not about us knowing better. We certainly didn't know better. But we had a feeling because we've been chatting to all these customers and they've been telling us, we love you too, we want to try it. And we had freemium back then and we just had thousands of people signing up. So the data talks.
I love that you use data to back up a hunch.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep.
You also had, so we run a number of workshops on the lead up to our accelerator programs. We're in the midst of our ID workshops right now.
I hope I didn't say anything that's controversial.
No, you said something that was great.
Oh, okay.
So you had another slide that had a perceptual map, and you were talking about your value proposition and how that's evolved over time, and how it took you so many years to know or to nut out the fact that there was actually a particular customer you needed to target. What was the journey on that? Because I'm telling people in these workshops, you need to go and talk to people. You need to use things like perceptual maps. You need to get in contact with people to understand what they're thinking. And I think that most people in the room are thinking, God, you're an idiot, Richard. So can you explain?
It's a big part of it, well, we burn a lot of cash. So there's a process here where you have to test. Now, there is this belief that you can just go to a marketing agency and pay for this. I call bullshit, right? Like literally, oh yeah, big agency says, pay us $50,000, we'll tell you who your market is. Okay, cool. I believe you have to go out there and talk to them, you have to test it. We ran probably, to this guy's stress, we ran probably 7 different literally building a brand new go-to-market product and throwing it into the market and telling our board, you know what, we don't know if it's going to make money, we don't know if it's going to work, but we need to understand if this gathers traction with this type of user. And we did things that were crazy. So we sold our product for $9 when it was worth $500. We did stuff and we tested and tested and tested. And that entire time, we're just gathering customer feedback and sentiment. You think $9 is too expensive? Tell me why. You think $500 is absolutely ridiculous. Can you tell us why? When would you pay $500? Oh, I'd pay it once I've launched my course and I've trained 50 people and I'm finding out, oh, okay, that's interesting. It led to what we call the rep, right? Which is, we talk about our customer as finding value over time. We have a net dollar retention rate of almost 150%. That means that someone comes in and their initial perception of value or willingness to pay is extremely low, right? They're actually at the earliest stage of their journey. But as they grow and actually see that product usage evolve and start to see wins, that willingness to pay actually accelerates. And if you've tied that, we tie it to learners. So our pricing is, if you share more courses, more learners go through courses. If more learners are learning, you should value us commercially, right? And that messaging's in our pricing and in our testing. So at the end of the day, we threw out 7 products. A lot of them flopped. He's built like things that got ripped back out 3 months later, you know, after spending huge amounts of time. So for us, if you've got the time to really figure this out, it is important. And I don't think you can kind of figure it out in a boardroom. We say this all the time. If we sit around a boardroom and sit there and go, okay, we think our customer wants this, and I think they're going to pay this, every time it fails. Because we've all got biases, right? Like where they're going, well, if we sell it for $40, we're going to make quicker to our target. And the customer's there going, yeah, but I really just want to pay 10, and I don't give a shit that you need to hit that target. So it's about understanding essentially and testing, and we just call it rapid fire. We have a thing called think big, start small. It's one of our values. Jude come up with it, and it's all about essentially going big idea, start small, let's see if we get traction. And an example of this, and a long-winded answer, because you don't get to ask any more questions, I just keep talking, essentially is 3 months ago, we went back to freemium. We first had freemium in 2017, and it's taken us all that time to launch freemium again 3 months ago, literally. Almost back to zero. Here we are launching the same go-to-market that we did in 2017, and it's going gangbusters because we've learned so much during that hazing period of understanding who our customers are, and now the metrics are here and we're moving, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, it's an important part of the process, I think.
Absolutely. And it sort of moves us into our next question from Stuart Flynn from Flynn County, who's asked, right now, after all that learning and all that hazing, who's your target market and what is the strategy for each one?
Yeah, our target market, the way we describe it is that it's an innovative person inside the business who has a training mandate. Now, what we believe is changing, essentially, is that everyone has a training mandate. So you have essentially someone who does care about their team. That's a number one. Because if you don't care, you'll chuck up a PDF and not give a shit if anyone learns, right? That's not our target market. The person who creates a course with us wants the end product to be amazing. It's like it's imprinted in their mind. They also want to move fast, and they want to share it in the tools that already exist today. One of the things that we had to figure out in our target market is, okay, there's LMSs where you sell the environment and everyone has to log in, and you may have experienced this at uni or whatever. Everyone has to log into this experience. No one likes it, but there's the content, there's the information, right? But over here, there's this massively wild conversation, and it's learning taking place on Facebook or like wherever, right? And in businesses, that's happening in Slack, it's happening in Teams, it's happening in all these little platforms. And so what we had to tap into to our target market is say, how do we tap into someone that wants to make amazing stuff? They're time poor, they need the tool to do most of the work for them, but we want to tap into every business who wants to be able to share knowledge. We call it tribal knowledge, not traditional knowledge. Traditional knowledge is like, yes, you must do our compliance on how to work from home. Yeah, that's important. Tribal knowledge is, this is how we talk to our customers. That only comes from the IP of the person who is actually talking to customers or managing that process. We want them to create the content because that's the part that actually makes learners really love it. So our target market, to answer your question, is anyone, which is a disaster. So to answer your question, if you want to have a wide target market, get ready for the grey. It's a very tough position.
That moves us into our next question. You mentioned you iterate all the time. Shannon, who's the founder of Responder, has asked, how do you manage the MVP or proof of concept process for your ideas? How do you manage that, and how do you know when you're onto something?
Well, so it's been so long since we actually had an MVP.
Or just a new feature from a feature request.
A new feature? Usually it's so we use something called Product Board. I don't know if anyone's heard of that. So we collate all the feedback we get from our existing customers through Product Board, and that way I'm able to kind of quantify like what is the most important things to our customers.
Spot the trends. We can then go back and through Intercom, so it's all connected through Intercom, go back and ask specific questions on certain things. So we've got a really good sense about what our customers actually want. So it's actually pretty easy for us. And our future customers. And I think, and on that, like we in the early days made so many mistakes making features for customers because they told us they needed them. I mean, everyone will do this. Yes. Oh, we need this really, really complicated one thing and we will buy your software. Oh, we need to make money. Okay, no worries. The minute we graduated from saying, you know what, we know our product, we want to take your feedback, we want to pool that with 1,000 others and see if there's a trend here, we started to get away from that. It was a big win. So I think like that's a takeaway. In the early days, we made that mistake.
Yeah. But in saying that, we still made some mistakes. We made we did something last year that we thought was going to be amazing. We thought it covered all the bases, but it kind of hasn't.
Yep.
Well, actually, the main problem with it is that we haven't been able to follow up with it. Last year, what Ryan said, we lost half the team, and like a lot of those was basically the wholesales team gone as well, which is what's partly led to this new kind of experience that's on the website now, so you can go in this freemium thing. But in saying that, we had been testing something similar for the last previous 12 months to get to here anyway. But
you just took a long way to get there, essentially.
Yes, like there's a lot of things play into what you're building as well. Like sometimes we need to think of a way to kind of monetize, like increase revenue from existing customers. So we kind of think of certain ways to actually, okay, well let's add this thing but charge for it, or just put it on a specific plans. We've changed plans about 150.
Oh yeah, you should see our database.
Our database is just like so many plans, and then.
I think like to add on to that, I don't think
I've answered the question.
No, this like idea of like this tussle between like me and Jude have had many tussles, mostly over at Market Town, arguing with each other as we're grabbing a coffee. No, I'm just trying to joke. They're not laughing. That's okay. The point is, there's a go-to-market tussle with a product tussle, and it's an important one. And the quicker you realise that they're not competition. They're intertwined, right? So people want to pay for a good product. They're not like, people don't want to go out and go, your product's worth nothing. That's just not true. There's a go-to-market and a product innovation and ideation that needs to pair up. And in our business, that's been a challenge. We've gone through many iterations of team types and styles to get to the point where, I'm sitting there going, guys, we need to be able to have an upgrade button here, and the product teams there going, well, we don't want to, it's going to ruin the design. Like we've been through those moments, right? But what we've realized is, how do you balance both of them to get an innovative feature? And the ideation of that comes from customer stories, team input. We have customer success agents in North America who do almost 400 conversations a week, right? They're talking to customers. And so they feed back into Jude's product board as well as the customers. And so we kind of put all that together, and then we sit down and go, okay, yeah, we have to make money. That's part of this business. Is this feature actually going to monetize? Is it going to actually make a difference to these users' lives? Because if it's not, they're not going to pay for it, and therefore we might be developing something and we might be out of business.